Hello, and welcome to the Social Studies mini lesson. Some of you may be watching on YouTube, some of you may be listening on a podcast, and some of you may be subscribed to my Substack. Whichever way you got here, I'm happy you are here. Three quick housekeeping items we will go over each time. Number one, be prepared. If you are listening on the podcast, grab a notebook so you can take notes. If you are watching the stream, you can take notes or even screenshots. Number two, pay attention. These mini lessons are meant to be just that, mini. They are not long and drawn out, so put the other devices away and pay attention to the lesson we are about to go over. If you are a paid subscriber to the Substack, you can ask any questions about today's lesson in the chat and submit your review answers in there as well. Number three, this is quite possibly the most important message. You are the captain of your own learning. You only get out what you put into your education, but no one can ever take your learning away from you. Showcase your knowledge on the subject by completing the practice questions at the end. And as always, enjoy today's mini lesson. Today we are going to be discussing the Normandy landings, otherwise known as D-Day. In the early hours of June 6, 1944, Americans learned that years of intense war efforts had led to D-Day, the long-awaited Allied invasion of Nazi-occupied Europe. Under the cover of night, over 5,300 ships and 11,000 planes crossed the English Channel, carrying thousands of British, American, and Canadian troops. Their mission? To storm the beaches of Normandy, break through enemy lines, and push the German military back to Berlin. Leading this massive operation, codenamed Operation Overlord, was General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Just months earlier, Eisenhower had successfully commanded the Allied invasion of French North Africa, proving his strategic brilliance. D-Day was more than just an invasion. It was the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. The Normandy landings commenced on Tuesday, June 6, 1944, beginning at 6:30 British double summertime, otherwise known as UTC +2. In planning, D-Day was a term used for the day of actual landing, which was dependent on final approval. The assault was conducted in two phases: an air assault landing of American, British, and Canadian airborne troops shortly after midnight, and an amphibious landing of Allied infantry and armored divisions on the coast of France, commencing at 6:30. The D-Day operations on June 6, 1944, was the largest single-day amphibious invasion in history, with 160,000 troops landing on the shores of Normandy. Supporting this effort were 195,700 Allied naval and merchant Navy personnel aboard more than 5,000 ships. The invasion involved the transportation of soldiers and supplies from the United Kingdom via troop-filled aircraft and ships, coordinated assault landings, air support, naval interdiction of the English Channel, and naval fire support. The landing spanned a 50-mile stretch of the Normandy coast, divided into 5 designated sectors: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. In order to pull this off, there were massive deception plans to mislead the Germans. To obscure the true date and location of the Allied landings, the Allies executed several deception operations. Operation Fortitude was a key strategy consisting of 2 parts. Fortitude North would use fake radio traffic to convince the Germans that an attack was imminent in Norway, while Fortitude South created the illusion of a powerful 1st United States Army group led by Lieutenant General George S. Patton, stationed in Kent and Sussex. Additionally, many German radar stations along the French coast were destroyed in preparation for the invasion. As part of Operation Fortitude, the Allies used fake shoulder patches, dummy equipment, and even inflatable tanks to deceive German intelligence. The fictitious 1st United States Army Group, FUSAG, supposedly led by General George S. Patton, was stationed in southeast England, complete with fabricated radio transmissions and decoy vehicles. There were inflatable tanks, wooden planes, and false troop movements convincing the Germans that the main invasion would occur at Pas de Calais rather than Normandy, successfully diverting their forces and aiding the real D-Day landings on June 6, 1944. The invasion planners had to consider specific conditions, including the moon phase, tides, and time of day, which limited suitable dates to just a few each month. A full moon was preferred to provide illumination for pilots and ensure high tides. The ideal landing time was just before dawn during a rising tide, allowing troops to land at the optimal water level. Initially, June 5th, 1944 was chosen for the assault, but poor weather conditions, including strong winds, rough seas that made launching landing aircraft impossible, and low cloud cover obscuring targets, forced a delay. After further forecasts predicted a brief improvement, Supreme Allied Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower made the pivotal decision to proceed with the landings on June 6, 1944. Here is today's practice work. One question for you this week. What is the Normandy landing, otherwise known as D-Day? A reminder, subscribers to the Substack can submit their answers and questions into the chat. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Shannon McNamara, or watch History in a Minute on TikTok at UDL Lisa. Have a great day.